In the last video, we wrote a little bit of code to work directly with the read function that is implemented by our body value right here. Now, of course, we probably don't want to make a byte slice manually every single time we want to actually get some information out of a request body. So in this video, we're going to figure out how we can condense down this code right here to something a little bit more legible, or something that just kind of takes care of all this stuff for us. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, figuring out exactly how we're going to take this response body and magically get some data out to our terminal is going to be kind of hard to understand. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to write out the code that is going to take the response body and automatically log out all the information inside of it to our terminal. So essentially doing the exact same thing that we're doing right here. So we're going to write out the code, and then we're going to come back and walk through the code and try to really understand what's going on. But I want you to know right now, this is definitely like some pretty advanced Go stuff. Nonetheless, this is really the heart of how you learn Go. So even though it's really challenging, this is the stuff that's really going to help you master the language. So let's get to it. So I'm going to delete this entire block of code right here, and I'm going to replace it with exactly one line of code. So we're going to say io.copy. We're going to pass in a first argument of os.standardout, so std out, and then a second argument of resp.body, like so. Now I'll save this file, I'll flip back over to the terminal, and I'm going to run our program again. And when I do, we're going to see the exact same thing that we saw before. So I still see all of our HTML appear on the screen. So what's going on here? Why did this work? How did this work at all? What is this standard out thing? What is this copy thing? Where is the read function coming from now? Hey, all right, so that's what we're trying to figure out here. So let's flip over and take a look at a couple of different diagrams that are going to help us understand what's happening here. Okay, so first thing I want you to look at is this right here. So at this point, we've been working with the reader interface. Remember, we use the reader interface to take some source of data and kind of import that data into our application with this very common point of contact that many other pieces of code can easily work with. Now in Go, there is another interface built into the standard library that does the exact opposite thing. So we can take a byte slice, pass it off to some other type that implements what is called the writer interface. The writer interface is used to take information from within our program and send that data out to some form of output, or some channel of output, some method of output. And so we can kind of think of this writer interface as doing something like this. We take our byte slice, we pass it to some value that implements the writer interface. The writer interface is essentially describing something that can take some info inside of our program and send it outside of our program. And so we use the writer interface to, say, write an outgoing HTTP request, or to write some information to a text file on our hard drive, or to write some information to an image file, or to even get some information out to our terminal. And so for us to use this writer interface, we essentially have to go through our standard library and find something that implements the writer interface and use that to log out all the information that we are receiving from our reader earlier on. So the purpose of the writer, again, we have some values inside of our standard library that implement the writer interface for us. And these values that implement the writer interface are being used to take some data inside of our application and write that information out to some source of output. So that's kind of step number one here, understanding the writer interface. Now let's take a quick break. We're going to come back to the next section and we're going to figure out exactly how this reader thing and writer thing are being tied together. So quick break, and I'll see you in just a minute.